Alright guys, welcome to Zhenjiang. I am going to take you to 3 famous hills today. The first one is just over there. I need a boat to get there. I've got my boat ticket. I think that probably is my boat coming in now. So let's go. Alright, back on dry land. That was about a 3-minute boat ride. Very nice though. Anyway, let's go and have a look. So that was actually the Yangtze that we just crossed. Well, not fully. This hill is on an island in the middle of the Yangtze River. Today, by the way, I'm going to take you to 3 famous hills. This place, Zhenjiang, is kind of famous for that. They're not just normal hills. They've got, you know, stuff on them. They're full of history and legend, all sorts of stuff. So we're going to start here, which is Jiaoshan. It's like this island in the middle of the Yangtze. It's kind of looks quite interesting. And then we're going to go to Beigushan, which is full of 3 kingdoms history. And then finally, the most famous of all of them is Jinshan, which is well known in China for the old folk story, the legend of White Snake. So here I go again, on my own.
These famous hills have been home to temples for hundreds of years, and although most of the buildings you see today are relatively new, they still have a nice air of mystery around them and are worth a little explore.
Well, I got to get to that pagoda, haven't I? Look at all the temples are painted yellow down here. It looks so beautiful. So this is the Great Yangtze River. It's the 3rd longest river in the world after the Nile and the Amazon. And at this point, 'cause we're quite not a million miles away from the coast, it's huge. So it's got some history in this place, Zhenjiang. Although I think it's always overshadowed by other cities surrounding it, namely Suzhou and Yangzhou and Nanjing and even Shanghai. You know, they're all pretty close by. So I think it's quite low down on people's list of places to visit. But it is famous for, well, amongst other things, historically, poets and artists came here writing and painting this beautiful landscape that is all over everywhere, especially the southern mountains. It's also famous for Zhenjiang vinegar, which is one of the key components in Chinese cooking. It's been used for 1400 years maybe. It's said to have been invented by like the brother or the child of the god of alcohol.
All of these hills, of course, require a short hike, but none are strenuous, and the views over the Yangtze make it all very worthwhile. I got lucky today. The weather was absolutely beautiful. At the summit of Jiaoshan are the remains of a nunnery and a huge pagoda.
As nice as the pagoda is, it was built in 1999, so it doesn't make my list. Never mind, I believe there are 2 ancient pagodas elsewhere in the city that we'll see later, I hope. Alright, let's head back down the hill. It's starting to get warm here as well. Still, the filming time I'm doing this right now is still February, so it's it's not as warm as it looks. At this point in the Yangtze, it comes in and creates these islands in the middle of the river, which is where we're on right now. So it's quite still, isn't it? Just over the top of that bit of land you can see over there is the main part of the river, where all the docks and things are. Zhenjiang has one of the biggest docks on the Yangtze of any city. Alright, so this is our second hill. This is Beigushan. Again, sitting right on the Yangtze River. It's another hike. Let's go.
There are some lovely building complexes around the summit of Beigushan, which give you more great views of the city and the river. I like this place a lot. As soon as I arrived in Zhenjiang, I had a really good feel about it. Green, lush and full of water. I now feel like I'm truly in southern China.
So before we move on, the last thing I want to look at here is probably the oldest thing here. It's a pagoda. It's actually an iron pagoda from the Song dynasty from 1078. Let's have a look.
This is the second iron pagoda to make the list. Iron pagodas are quite rare treasures in China, and despite the damage sustained over the years, it is still beautifully decorated with dragons, phoenixes and Buddha images.
So the bottom couple of levels are Song Dynasty from the 1000s, and the top's a little bit later. It was rebuilt in the Ming Dynasty, so 1400s. Quite nice places to explore these hills. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. There's an old story about this city, Zhenjiang, that apparently, back in the Qin Dynasty, the first imperial empire of China, over 2,000 years ago, the first emperor, him of the terracotta warrior fame, believed that the feng shui here was so perfect and powerful that they drilled holes in the mountains and the hills to try to release qi. Pretty cool, man. I hope it's true. I like these weird stories. Quite interesting, these hills. They're all full of Three Kingdoms history. If you know your Three Kingdoms history, it's a relatively short period of Chinese history which is so well known because of the famous novel, The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So all these stories and characters, there's all these connections with all these places. This hill, Beigushan, is no exception.
For all of you Three Kingdoms history nerds out there, this part of China was in the old kingdom of Wu, and the hill here at Beigushan contains a couple of tombs to some pretty important figures. First is Lu Su, one of the key advisors to Sun Quan. He's buried right here, and just 50 meters away is the tomb of the great general Tai Shi. This place was busy. Definitely the least enjoyable of the places I visited here, but perhaps the most culturally significant. The walk up to the top was quick and easy, and there were some more nice views from the summit, however. 3 hills, done.
You know what, I knew I'd dislike this place the most. Everywhere I went today, I don't know. It's hard for me to get excited about a place where there's piped piano music out of every tree and megaphones hanging from speakers on repeat messages. It's very hard for me to get any real sense or feeling of history or anything from it, to be honest. So although, as you can probably tell, I'm not that impressed with this place compared to other places anyway, it is important in Chinese culture because of, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, a story, one of the most famous folk tales in China, called The Legend of White Snake. So in this story, there are 2 snakes, a white snake and a green snake, and they live on Hebei Mountain in Sichuan Province. After thousands of years of Taoist training, they become beautiful women.
The 2 snake women are called Bai Sujian and Xiao Qing, and they end up meeting a guy called Xu Xian. The white snake, that is Bai Sujian, falls in love with Xu Xian and they get married. However, Fa Hai, the abbot of this very temple right here on Jinshan, discovers that she is actually a snake and tells her husband. He then dies. I guess it would be a shock to discover your wife is in fact a snake. The white snake then magics him back to life, but he is then kept in the temple by the abbot Fa Hai. The 2 snake women come to get Xu Xian back and have a huge brawl with the abbot, who is doing all kinds of mad stuff. The white snake then floods the temple and they take off. Xu Xian, her recently back from the dead zombie husband, realizes she really does love him, and despite her being a snake, he is now kind of okay with it. However, the demon-hunting abbot Fa Hai turns up again and fights the white snake and imprisons her under Leifeng Pagoda in Hangzhou. I will be in Leifeng Pagoda in a few videos' time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my retelling of a famous story there. Anyway, we're going to get out of here and we're going to go and see what the British made here. And also a Yuan Dynasty pagoda, which looks very interesting. Let's have a look. Go, go, go. This is the standard kind of old street area that most Chinese towns have. But this is quite an interesting one. It's the former British concession. which existed between 1861 and 1929.
The old British concession is a bit of a tourist hotspot, but has some nice old buildings to explore, and also this, a Yuan dynasty stone pagoda which straddles the street. The actual pagoda is in a Tibetan style which was common in the Mongol-led Yuan dynasty. Under Mongol rule, the de facto religion was Tibetan Buddhism, and its influence can still be seen all over China.
This is Yuan dynasty. It was built in 1311. I've never seen a pagoda like that and walk through it. Interesting. Well, they look pretty British, don't they? I think it's actually part of the museum, but it's closed. It used to be the British consulate. Oh, that's a shame. They're all closed. Looks like they're doing refurbs or something. It's all part of the old consulate and part of the old, the old concession. 1890, it's at the top of that building. Grand buildings. Wow. Not sure if you can see it on that building, but there's two little stone plaques on either side of the door there. They say VR, which stands for Victoria, Regina. Built during the Victorian era. That was, I want to say 1837. Hi. I want to say 1837 to 1901. We're going to finish this one at the big pavilion thing on top of the hill, I think. I've enjoyed my time here. By the way, those people who said hello to me just then, two students, a guy from Iraq and a guy from Turkmenistan. First foreigners I've seen here. Nice guys, nice guys. Had a really nice time here today. As with a lot of places, I think the most famous tourist site, in this case, Jiangsu Temple, they're often the worst places, Everything else has been so nice. Worth a trip. Alright guys, I think here we're going to wrap this one up. Really nice visit here to Zhenjiang. See you in the next one. All the best, take care and bye bye.